Are you relying on solely natural light to grow your houseplants? Maybe you are, and you're slowly running out of room. All of your windowsills are full to the max. Maybe you have thought about grow lights, but you're just scared that your home would look like a sterile lab with those harsh white lights instead of a realistic jungle oasis that would look good with the rest of the lighting in your home and decor. The exact questions that I asked actually came in from a Patreon member, Maggie. Thanks, Maggie, for sending in this request. Some of you have also been asking me in the comment section about grow lights and how I go about choosing them. So let's talk about grow lights. If you're new here, hi, my name is Stephanie, and I like creating my own indoor oasis myself, and I use grow lights to help me along the way. In this video, I'm going to answer a few questions and give you a mini tour of my grow light setup. Here's what we'll talk about today. What are grow lights? How do they work, and how exactly do they help my plants to thrive? Then we're going to talk about the different types of grow lights and how you can choose the right grow lights for your space and plants. Lastly, which is probably my favorite part, we're going to go on a mini tour of the grow lights I have in my collection. I'm going to talk about every single one of them and a couple that I actually forgot in my houseplant supply video. If this is your first time to my channel, one thing you'll learn very quickly about me is I like to keep things simple. Here's a simple explanation of what grow lights are. Grow lights are basically artificial lights that mimic sunlight that we use indoors to help our plants grow and thrive. Why would someone need grow lights? Why would we pay for light when sunlight comes out of the sky for free? Many of the houseplants that we enjoy growing in our home are actually from tropical climates. I'm actually from a Caribbean island named St. Lucia, and so many of the houseplants that I buy and grow in my collection used to grow wild in my backyard, in the bush. If you're from the islands, you know what I mean. While growing in the bush or in forest environments, they're used to having consistent light. In our homes, especially if our plants are not sitting directly under windows, they're not going to get the same quality and quantity of light that they would usually get when they live outdoors. This is especially the case during winter when we have shorter days. Another reason that grow lights are helpful is because they help prevent leggy growth. Leggy growth is actually one of my pet peeves when growing houseplants. If your plant is getting lots of light, it is likely that there's going to be a smaller gap between each leaf, causing a fuller look to your plant. The less light your plant gets, it tends to grow a bit more leggy, meaning the space between each leaf becomes longer, causing a leggy look, which is typically not as attractive. Usually when we grow houseplants, we want that nice, lush, healthy look. Also, when your plant isn't getting enough light, it tends to lose leaves easily, so you tend to have a little bit more yellowing of the leaves because your plant needs energy in order to keep every single leaf that it has. And in my personal experience, I find that plants that aren't getting enough light are more susceptible to pests because they're a little bit weaker and not able to really grow beautifully and thrive the way that it needs to. So when do you need grow lights? How do you know if you need grow lights for your plants? In addition to the points that I just mentioned about the way the plant grows, it depends on where you'd like to grow your plant. If there is maybe a dark corner or a dark room or space without a lot of natural light that you'd like to place a plant because maybe you think it would look good there, more of like a styling preference, then you would need to add light to help that plant to grow well there. So if you have a dark room or corner, or even if you're placing your plant in front of a window, but that window is shaded with either trees or huge balconies up above, or if it's a north-facing window, if you're in the northern hemisphere, north-facing windows get the least amount of sun because they're basically facing away from the sun. Or if you're trying to grow your plants in a room with no windows at all, like a bathroom, a lot of bathrooms, especially in Canada where I live, have no windows. And so if you're trying to do that, you will definitely need grow lights in order to help your plants grow in these spaces. As we go into the winter months and the hours of sunlight become shorter and shorter, you may want to get grow lights so your plants do not feel the shorter days and so that they continue to thrive even when the sun is outside for fewer hours in the day. Another reason why you might need grow lights is if you're growing light hungry plants. And you already know the first example I'm going to give you, Hoya! Hoya are very, very light hungry. The majority of them, not all, they bask and perform their best in high amounts of light. I've said this a million times on my channel. I think Hoya grow best in direct sunlight. If you're not able to give them that, you most likely would need to supplement them with grow lights. Other plants that need really high amounts of light are succulents, cacti, and not forgetting variegated plants. Variegated plants need lots of bright light in order to maintain that variegation. All right, so we know what grow lights are and why we might need them, but how exactly do grow lights work? Can you just use a regular bulb? Isn't light light? To break this down simply, the sunlight that we see outside, it may look like a very simple light to us, but it's actually a combination of colors. And what grow lights do is they try their best to mimic the colors that occur in natural sunlight. According to online research, blue light, when it comes to houseplants, help plants grow fuller and produce lush leaves. Red light helps plants to bloom or flower. They work well for houseplants like peace lilies or orchids. But let's face it, who wants a blue or red light in their space? Definitely not me. The type of grow lights that usually most of us go for are full spectrum lights. Full spectrum lights have a balanced mix and are closest to natural sunlight, and they're usually ideal for most houseplants. You've heard this before, and it's true. Not all grow lights are created equal. Let's talk about the different types of grow lights. Grow bulbs. They literally look like an ordinary bulb that you would just screw into your light socket, but they are full spectrum light. And these are helpful if you're trying to light up a bigger area, or if you want to put it in a lamp to sort of beam down on a specific plant or area. These are nice because they're not as obvious. They don't stand out, and you could work them very easily into your existing home decor. The only thing about certain types of bulbs, or if you choose to use a bulb in a light fixture in the ceiling, or if you choose to use a bulb in sort of a standing lamp, the intensity of the light is affected. It becomes more diffused because it's not focusing on a specific area. So I find the plants don't grow as quickly in such situations, and it's a little bit better to have something that over the bulb that can help to direct the rays in a specific area that you'd want them to be. Another kind are long panel lights, and these ones are quite popular because when we have our plant shelves, we tend to adhere them to the bottom of our plant shelves to beam down on our plants down below. Hanging lights are also a good idea for larger plant setup. I know a lot of people will have sort of a pendant light come down, and so that it can beam onto an area of plants. Another one of my favorite types are the standing grow lights. I love how they provide a consistent amount of light all the way down, and there's no interruption. So I don't have to worry about it beaming exactly on a specific place. I just like that I have a continuous rays down the entire light. I find these cover a nice wide range. I love them as well because I'm able to gently maneuver them, tilt them in the direction that I want them to be. I like that I can move them easily from place to place. I'm not worried about having to clip it onto some place. I also like to use them laying down on top of shelves to beam down on plants down below. I also love the standing lights. Again, you could probably see which ones are my favorite because they are perfect for plants that you want to face forward. I find when you have panels, your plants tend to face up to the light, and it might not be as cute, but if you have plants, especially plants with bigger leaves that you want to face forward to give you more of a statement look, like my Philodendron Jose Bono here, you may want to have a nice standing light so that all your leaves can face forward, and it just gives you that Instagram worthy look. It's not even Instagram worthy, but it's just really nice to have your plants facing you so you can enjoy the foliage up front. I started knowing absolutely nothing about grow lights. When I searched for grow lights, I really did not understand what all of these values meant, what the watts meant, this value times how many watts and 1400 or whatever that was. I really didn't understand what any of that information meant. But there are a couple values that I've learned along the way that has helped me to know what I really like or don't like about certain grow lights. So let's start with what I don't like. 100% I do not like, I've said this before, these colorful grow lights. I'm pretty sure that there's a group of people who these grow lights will be great for, people who are trying to grow seedlings. I'm not saying they're completely useless, but let's just say that I couldn't find a use for them. I started trying other brands of grow lights. And so the first brand that I tried were Scentsy grow lights. So I want to let you know that this video is not supported by any brand whatsoever. Scentsy has sent me grow lights in the past. They've sent me 2 of their gooseneck grow lights, and I actually really like it. These opinions are my own, and I will tell you the pros and cons of all the grow lights that I've used. So like I mentioned, they've sent me a black and a white version. You'll get to see all of my grow lights in the wild, meaning in my setup and how I use them soon. But I just want to show you a little bit of, give you a little bit of information on what you can look for when you are shopping for grow lights. So again, I still don't know what watts mean. I honestly don't. I could probably Google it, but I'll be transparent with you. I don't. What I have learned a little bit about is this value here. And this value is called the lumen. And if we look it up, trust me, we're not going to get too deep. We're just going to understand what we need in order to be able to shop for lights better. Lumens measure the total amount of light emitted by a light source. The more lumens indicate the brighter light, the fewer lumens indicate a dimmer light. Our plants need bright light. So, what's the best lumen value for our grow lights? Well, the more lumens, like we mentioned, is nice. So over 1,000 lumens per square foot is ideally where you want to start. So if we look at these grow lights, these are 4,000 lumens. So that's a pretty high number. It makes sense because my plants absolutely love the Scentsy grow lights. Another pro of these grow lights is I find they're pretty cost effective. They often go on sale. You're getting 1, 2, 3, 4 lights. They have built-in timers. Some of them, like this one, you can control how long each individual light stays on for, I believe. So I think that's a pretty great setup. I do not use these features, but I'm pretty sure there's someone out there who might enjoy those features about them. One thing that I do not like about the Scentsy lights is that they do get really hot, even if they're LED grow lights, and they will burn you. So you'd want to be careful where you place this. You wouldn't want to put it in a place that your pets frequent or small children, or even when if you're accident prone and you're pretty clumsy and you reach for your plants and you totally forget the grow lights there. If that's you, which has happened to me a lot, you may want to, consider if it's a good match for you. These are one of the 2 different kinds of Scentsy lights that I own. So I own a black and a white one to this. I also own this guy, and this is one of their tiny gooseneck ones. I will show you one in the wild again as we walk through my collection. And they're really good for shelves or desks or little spaces where you just want a light there, like at your bedside table. You don't want a big harsh grow light, but you just want something to keep some plants alive. Let's look at the details on this light before I get into it, because I have strong opinions about this guy. Let's see. If we have to look for details on the lumens here, I actually can't find it. There is no information on here on how much light these little guys give off. And you know what? I'm actually not surprised, because I don't love these clip-on lights. I find that it doesn't give out enough light to satisfy a mature plant. A tiny itty bitty plant, yes. And you know what? This picture may be a little bit accurate. For low light loving plants, yes, I do think that, it's probably best for plants that don't need a whole lot of light, smaller plants. Now, another brand that I use a lot, we'll get to see how I have mine styled. They're Barina grow lights. Now, Barina is a little bit more than Scentsy when it comes to price, but I like the sleek look of their grow lights. My favorite Barina lights, let's just start with the ones I love best, are their Barina standing lights. Words that we're looking for are full spectrum, but again, a lot of grow light companies say that, but I feel like we need a little bit more information. But anyways, full spectrum, they're 4 feet long. And if we scroll a little bit further down to get a little bit more information about these lights, they are LED lights. They don't get hot to the touch like the Sansi lights. So here we go. If you go a little bit further down, we get this information. So these are 4,500 lumens, pretty bright. But if we look at the next number, which is kelvins, when we see K, the K actually means kelvins. So kelvins refers to the color or the temperature of the light being emitted, which means how warm or cool the light appears. Kelvins is used to describe whether the light leans toward red or yellow or blue. Kelvin scale ranges from 1000, which is a warm reddish color, to 10,000, which is a bluish cool color. So again, if you don't like that harsh white lab look, you'd want to find a sweet spot of that Kelvin value. It's a warm light, and we see the Kelvin value here is 3,500, and it gives off such a wicked, like a really good amount of light. And I honestly wish that they made their smaller lights mini versions of this light. So I also have these lights here. These are the last bunch of grow lights that I ever bought. I think these are some of the newer Barina lights. I could be wrong. So these are the Barina. I think I have the 2-foot lights. Again, I'm going to show you where all of these are placed in my collection. And it comes in a 4-pack. Now, I accidentally ordered the pink one time, did not like it, and I returned it and got the daylight. This is the official Barina website. I came here to get a little bit more detail about the light specs. So again, it's the Barina T5. They're 4 feet, and this is the yellow light. Now the yellow lights I find are a little warmer than daylight. The next option, that's 5,000 kelvins, you'd think it was a bright white color, but it's actually not. I find it's closer to actual sunlight, especially when the sun is high in the sky at about midday. This light will be a little bit bluer toned than the one we saw before, but still not yet that lab white look. I know that the color of grow lights or the Kelvin value is a matter of personal preference, but for my space, I prefer more of a daylight look. So the Kelvin value would be about 4,500 to 5,000. It gives the look of the afternoon sun when it's high in the sky. The lower the Kelvin value, when it's about 3,500, it gives more of a orange type look. Not too orange, but it's definitely not as cool toned as the 5,000 one. If your budget for houseplants is a little bit higher, then you may like Soltech. Soltech is one of the higher end grow light brands. I have never used their grow lights or worked with them before, but they have lots of different kinds. They have the pendant ones that hang down from the ceilings. They've got desk lights that face down. They're super sleek. I feel like you can see the quality in the product, at least from the pictures. I've never personally used their grow lights. I mean, Soltech, give me a call, holla at me if you want to work with me. They look great and they get pretty amazing reviews. It's just a little bit, out of my personal budget at the moment. One of their most popular ones, at least the one that attracts me the most, is the Highland light. A long trail, like a track, and you can put lights onto it, like spotlights, and you can point them in different directions to grow your plants. I mean, that's fabulous. I just think that's such a fantastic way to display your plants and give them the love that they need in the lighting. So what I've done is I've created my own version of this, but not with a track lighting system. I think I'll get to that one eventually, but I did it with an IKEA round track light. So I bought the IKEA Nijmegen ceiling spotlights. They have 3 lights in them. They actually had another one that was bigger, that had more lights in them. Did they? Or maybe not. Maybe I'm making things up. Maybe I think I was tempted between that one and this long one here. I was tempted to get this one, but because I wanted it for a small room, I decided to get this instead, because just in case we decided to not make it a plant room anymore, I didn't think that a track light would look good in a bedroom. So I decided to get the round one instead. It was only for $39.99 Canadian. It wasn't too bad. So I got these, and then I went on Amazon and I found some grow bulbs for them. They need to be GU10 bulbs. It was actually pretty hard to find grow bulbs that size, at least in Canada. And I think I got these guys. I think this is the ones that I purchased. These are the GU10 grow bulbs, and they worked pretty good. I've been using this, I think, for about a year now. Wow, time has gone by. So it's been almost a year since I've been using these bulbs. I started using them in October of 2024. And so, yeah, I like them a lot so far. They are 4,000 Ks or Kelvins. So they're not stark white, which is nice. So when I turn on the lights, they don't feel too white, but they are a little bit on the whiter side. And if we scroll down, I actually don't know what the lumens are on these. They don't feel very strong, and it could be, not that I can feel them as in temperature wise, but when I look at the growth of my plants, especially over the winter, they do not seem to be extremely strong. And it could be the distance, or it could be because they're only 1,000 lumens. So I do have 3 lights in there. It's not terrible. My plants are growing, but I can definitely see them growing a lot more in the summertime. Before you get your grow light, it's a good idea to think about where exactly you would like to set up your plant with the grow light. First of all, you need an outlet. There are places in my home that I would love to place houseplants, but there are no outlets there, so I'm not able to. And battery powered grow lights, I wouldn't recommend them unless you don't mind switching out batteries very often. Some grow lights are clip-ons, so they have these very strong clamps that you can clip on to shelves, desks, and they have long goosenecks. These ones are great because you're able to attach the grow light onto something, and you're able to adjust the light itself, the gooseneck, in the direction that you'd like it to be. I think these are great for tight spaces that aren't your general living space, because sometimes the goosenecks can be a little bit unsightly depending on the color you get. They sort of stand out and they don't create a nice smooth look, if that makes any sense. I like to use the gooseneck ones for places that aren't common living spaces, like my office, where I don't mind seeing the gooseneck on my shelves. That's fine for me, but I wouldn't put them into my common areas of my home because that's where I want more of a clean look. Next, let's talk about how to choose the right type of grow lights for your houseplant. Think about the type of plant that you would like the grow light for. Are they low light loving plants like snake plants or pothos? Then you wouldn't need a very intense hot grow light. If you have high light loving plants, like I mentioned, like Hoya, ficus plants like the fiddle leaf fig, the ficus burgundy, or succulents, you would need strong, consistent light to keep these plants happy. It's a good idea to match the light that you have in mind to your space. Also, when getting grow lights, you'd want to consider timers. A lot of grow lights come with timers built in that you can use. I actually prefer buying a plug that you put into your outlet and then you plug your grow lights in. That plug can connect to your phone and you're able to create custom timers to turn your lights on and off. Because a lot of times the timers that come with the grow lights, they have fixed settings like 6 hours, 12 hours, etc. But with gadget that I'm talking about, you're able to create custom timers and you're able to turn your grow lights on and off using your phone. So I definitely recommend those. They're a lifesaver. Let's talk about intensity and duration. How much light do plants need and how intense do they need this light to be? In the forest, not all plants experience the sun in the same way. Some plants grow higher up in trees and need more light, or some plants grow in parts of the world that get long hours of daylight. Some plants that we try to grow as houseplants are ones that are usually growing on the forest floor and do not get as much harsh direct sunlight as some of the other plants that we just mentioned. So intensity and the duration really depends on the plants that you're trying to grow. So that's why I always recommend researching the plants that you have or you want to purchase to know the light requirement. This is where what we learned about lumens comes in. Plants need a minimum of 2,000 lumens per square foot for adequate growth. And many light-loving plants need more than that, 2,000 to 3,000 lumens. So when looking at grow lights, make sure that your lights have at least 2,000 lumens. Typically, houseplants tend to grow their best when they're getting around 10 to 14 hours of light every day. The number of hours that I leave my grow lights on for actually depend on where the plants are and what time of year it is. If my plants are not located near a window, then I would definitely give them more light. I would actually leave the grow lights on for a little bit longer, maybe an hour or two more than my plants that are near to a window, because plants that are near a window likely get a little bit of help from the natural light coming in. I don't need to use the grow light as long. If I do, the plants will dry out way too fast. During the winter, I will keep my grow lights on for a little bit longer since the sun is in the sky for a short amount of time. I would leave my grow lights on for around 13 hours during the winter time. So before we walk around and take a look at the way I have my grow light set up and my plant set up, here are a few extra tips to keep in mind. Remember not to place your grow lights too close to your plant. Google says to keep it about 6 to 12 inches away from your plant. So I learn by trial and error. That's what has worked for me. I look at my plant, I take a look at the type of plant it is. Do I want to help this plant to sun stress? What do I want for this plant? What is the type of plant? Like I mentioned, I find plants with thinner or more delicate feeling leaves, they burn a lot easily. So I would put those plants typically on D-lights that don't get too hot. Just be careful when it comes to bleaching, because if you put it too close, it will bleach or cause the leaves to become a lighter green color that's typically not very attractive. If I'm using bulbs that can get a little bit hot to the touch, that's when I definitely will not put my plants too close. I typically would use those for, like I mentioned, succulents, plants that can handle direct sunlight. If it can handle direct sunlight, then it most likely can handle the heat from a bulb. Again, not putting it too close because it will literally burn. It wouldn't even bleach, it will just burn the leaves. Like I've mentioned, I learned a lot by trial and error. So if you're using grow light, watch your plants. Whenever you change something, watch your plants. Is your plant still growing leggy with the grow light? Then you may want to push your plant a little bit closer. Is it starting to burn or starting to dry out too fast? A little bit further back. So whenever you get your grow light, no matter whatever you get, whatever brand you get, just always watch and observe your plants. And that way you're able to give your plants exactly what they need. I know it might be so much easier for me to tell you, put that plant this close. But it's best actually if you can learn your plants, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to empower you to learn your plants, and that way you can enjoy the process and you can help your plants to thrive. Let's go walking through my collection and see what I have and how I have it set up. All right, so we're in my plant room and we're gonna start here for our grow light tour. This is a great idea of a dark spot where even if to the naked eye it doesn't seem dark, but there's no light here for a plant to grow. Even if there's a window across here, this is a west window, this is way too far for a plant to thrive. It will survive but not thrive. So that's why I've decided to put this grow light at the top, and I think that's a good spot for it. And it's clipped onto this little basket that I have here, and there's a low light loving plant growing here. This is Epipremnum marble, so it's a marble queen pothos. It's growing in water. And another reason why I'm okay with this plant here is because the plant is growing down and it's also getting light from this grow light here inside of the bookcase. So, well, not the bookcase, the Mills bow cabinet. So I feel like it's getting enough light. But again, this is how I would use this tiny little light, only for one very small plant or a plant that can tolerate low light. All right, so as we move into the cabinet, I have what we call the lab lights, the bright white lights. And so like we learned before, these lights are most likely 5,000 kelvins or 5,000 Ks or higher, and that's how we're getting that very bright white color. This is a Barina shop light. This is the very first set of grow lights I ever got before I knew anything about grow lights. I think I saw a YouTuber who said, like, if you want cheap grow lights, get shop lights. And my plants, I think they survive and they don't thrive. I wouldn't recommend these lights because they are not full spectrum lights. So they're basically not grow lights. They do not mimic the sun. They're just lights. So my plants, like I said, they just survive. They don't thrive. And because I've already bought them, I keep using them, but I wouldn't recommend them. So to give you a little bit of an idea, here's a west facing window. Here's the cabinet you just saw, and directly opposite it, see my green screen there on my desk. That's my Vidjo shelf with a bunch of plants. And I guess since we're here, let's just talk about the grow lights in the ceiling. So like I already shared, if you skipped through this video and you fast forwarded to the tour, this will make more sense if you watched the entire video. This is the IKEA light that we talked about. I actually don't remember the name because I mentioned it earlier in the video. But yeah, that's how it looks in my space. I do think it's a little smaller. I was hoping it would have been a little bit bigger, but that's okay. I still prefer it than a track light. And as you can see, the light isn't this very bright white. I think we found out that they were 4,500 kelvins. I don't remember the number, but they're not stark white. They're not as white as the blue type, the blue undertoned light that we saw in the shop lights. So I think in the winter time, my plants tolerate this, but they don't thrive. And I think because these are only 1,000 lumens, they do not provide a strong growing type light for the plants, but it's decent enough. But now that it's been summertime and the west window is pushing in, has a lot more light, I've noticed the plants have boomed and in their growth. But yeah, I think I would keep lower light tolerating or to medium light loving plants in this space. If you look up, the grow lights here, they all face this here. So on that shelf, I've hidden my Sansi lights in here. So I specifically wanted white so that it will not be so obvious. If I had black ones, they would really stand out. So I put white so that they can blend in with the wall and with the white planters, etc. These are the really hot Sansi ones. We learned about them a couple minutes ago, but these ones are really hot. They will burn you, and I feel like my Hoya grow beautifully under these lights. Like my Hoya love them. They sun stressed. My variegated Hoya, they absolutely adore these Sansi lights. Love them for my Hoya. Now I've risked it all and put my variegated Alocasia Frydek here. You know, you just have to be a little bit careful, like I said, because this can be dangerous for this plant. But if you look at the leaf that came before I put this here, when I had it actually growing in a south window, and with the tiny little light that we saw just now, the first light I showed you, that it was starting to push more and more green leaves. But since I put it here under their Sansi light, again, Sansi lights are so good for variegated plants. Look at that. This is the newest leaf. Beautiful, beautiful and flat. Because it's sitting on a lower shelf, I think it can tolerate this, but I still have to be super careful. But the Hoya are literally sitting a little bit higher. Okay, so the next set of lights are the the Barina LED T5s. And these are T5s, the same name as the bright white ones that we saw earlier, but you notice the words here, it says full spectrum on it. So these are full spectrum, meaning they have all the colors, they mimic sunlight the most. If we take a look here, can you see how orange the lights are? Yellower or more orange. Orange is the word. They're a bit more orange than actual sunlight. I feel like the Sansi ones are a little bit closer to the color of actual sunlight, but these ones are like a lot more orange. And if you want a very soft light, I think these are a great place to go. The yellow lights. I remember before I didn't really like the yellow lights because I just felt like they looked a bit too yellow. But as I grow plants more and more, I'm beginning to love the daylight look a little bit better. My plants definitely perform better with these grow lights than with the first ones you saw, the shop lights, because these are full spectrum, and like I said, the shop lights are not. So this is my lovely Barina standing light here. I just adore this light so much. And just so you know, this light, I have it sitting on a chair. It actually doesn't need to, I don't need to, but I put it on the chair just because I really wanted to elevate it. I don't want to encourage by any means the plants to point downwards to face it. I want them to stay facing the light. And I guess I could put it down on the floor, but I think I like it this way. Yeah, and so all of my plants, they grow facing the light because of that. So I really love it. Once again, it has like a tiered foot. It has legs. I don't like these legs. It tips over a lot. So I don't love that. It only works best if it's flat like this. If you try to make them straight, a little bit straighter like feet, it will tip over, but like this, it doesn't tip over. And when I say tip over, I'm not talking about when it's on the chair. I'm talking about when it's flat on the floor. If you try to let it stand up a little bit higher, it will tip over. And if we go a little bit further down, you can see a little bit more fancy lights, the arms. So typically when most people use gooseneck lights, this is typically how they use them. They clip them onto the shelf. Oh, like, let's see, clip them onto the shelf right here. You can see it was actually very hard to clip it on the shelf, and it did scratch my shelves a lot. It does scratch when I try to take it on and off, so that's not fun. But anyways, I adjust the goosenecks to face the plants that I want them to face. And so I really like it. And that's another reason why I use glass shelves, is so that the lights can pour right through the shelves. I feel like that's one of the best ways you can really utilize the power of grow lights. And I like the Sansi lights because they help to sun stress. The Barina lights also sun stress plants really, really nicely as well. Fun fact, this is actually a grow light that I put in here a long, long time ago because I had the intention of growing plants in the shelf right here. I like having a nice cascading plant. It's one of those generic bulbs from Home Depot. It's just a bulb that I just screwed in, right? I just placed in here. And the reason that I don't like this is because the light is too diffused. It's not strong enough. It's true, it's full spectrum. But again, I think this would work best for low light plants. So if I had a pothos here, or maybe even a Philodendron Micans, I feel like that's the plants that will do well here. Anything variegated, light loving, I don't think they would thrive here. I really need to take out that bulb because it's sort of wasting a perfectly good grow bulb. If I had it in a fixture or a light that was going down, so if it was hanging down from the ceiling and it had a shade that was opaque and forcing all of the light to face down in one direction, yes, I do think it's a great use of that. But I think like this, the light is just bouncing off of everywhere. And I didn't find it very effective. But again, I think low light plants would tolerate here. You'd have to be established and mature and happy. Okay, so this is my dining room area. Again, if you spend a lot of time on my channel, all of this is very familiar to you. And here I have another standing Barina grow light. This is what I meant earlier when I talked about the lights tip over easily. If you try to make it stand a little bit higher, it does tip over easily, especially on smooth surfaces. On carpet, not as bad, but on smooth surfaces, it does tip over, which is very annoying. But out of all the grow lights that I've ever used, this is by far my favorite grow light. I love the temperature, I love the kelvins and the lumens of it. I feel like all of my plants respond beautifully to it. Everything grows well under this. It is not this stark white bright look. It is a very soft look. I really like it. It feels like daylight. It just feels like a window that I have opened, and I love it. And again, I love it because all my plants face forward. It has a button, so you can step on it and turn it on and off. And then the same thing I have upstairs is what I have here, which is the rest of those ShopLite grow lights sitting in here. And the last growing space that I have with grow lights is this plant wall. These shelves were already here when we moved into this house. I really need to cut that. That doesn't look very nice. But anyways, that's the way it looks right now. It's real life. So here I have more, or the remainder of those Barina T5s, the new ones that are actually grow lights. So they're the Barina T5 full spectrum warm lights. I like them a lot, but don't love them. They're not as strong as the standing Barina lights. I was hoping that they were small version of the standing ones, but they are not. The plants here, they tolerate it. They're okay. And I have a south window here, south sliding doors. So I don't leave these lights on as long as the lights in my plant room, because they get plenty of additional light coming in from the south windows. They don't get any direct sunlight. That's why I have grow lights here. Again, I'm all about thriving. I just had another one of these extra tiny little elbow lights, and so I just decided to just pop it down here. Let's recap. Grow lights are amazing. If you have a large houseplant collection and you're running out of natural light, it's a great way to continue to expand your collection or even improve your current collection and help it to thrive. The trick is just finding the right light to match the plant and your space. If you have any questions or suggestions, or even better, if there are specific grow lights that you absolutely love, don't gatekeep. Share them with us down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I appreciate the time you've spent watching it, and I hope to see you in the next one.